It's week 13. Every running back is ranked and tiered. So before Sunday, let's break down these updated running back rankings for week 13 of the 2024 NFL season. This is Ian in Fantasy Football, presented by ErvinandM.com, where I combine industry-leading data, Vegas sportsbooks, and expert analysis to provide you with optimal weekly rankings for the utmost accuracy with setting your weekly lineups in your fantasy football league. I'm writing this on Tuesday night for Wednesday's video. Expect more videos later every week for the other unit groupings like wide receiver, quarterback, and tight end. And click the playlist in the top right for all the rankings for this week. Once again, the running back numbers are fantastic compared to the wideouts. We've got 5 in the S tier, and they are all projected for 90 to 100 plus yards. They all score at least one tutty per game. We'll move quickly. Joe Mixon, 102 over-under, 112 yards per game, 1.2 tutties per game. They are 5-point favorites versus the 26th ranked Jaguars run D. Jahmyr Gibbs, 91 over-under, 95 yards per game, 1 touchdown per game. They are 10-point favorites against Chicago's 20th ranked run D. Derrick Henry, 81 over-under, but 116 yards per game and 1.4 tutties per game in the highest scoring game of the week, set at 51. It's against Philly and their 7th best run D. Don't be scared. Kyren Williams, 96 over-under, only 87 yards per game, but a touchdown per game with a huge total set at 49 against New Orleans, 25th ranked run D. And Saquon Barkley, 108 over-under, 150 yards per game with 1.1 tutties per game on the other side of the ball. In the highest scoring game of the week, set at 51 versus the scary Baltimore Ravens' 2nd best run D. It's the only reason he finds himself at the end of the tier. But you're not afraid because he's Saquon Barkley. These are your top 5 running backs for week 13. They are your best running backs this week. They catch passes. They have good matchups with high implied team scoring totals. They all score a tutty every single game or more, putting them in the best position to go over 90 to 100 yards and maximize your fantasy points. A tier begins with the rest of the elite running backs. Any of these guys could finish top 5. They are projected between 90 and 100 yards this week by major sports books. Alvin Kamara, it's 6, 103 over-under, 114 yards per game. Scores a touchdown at a 60% rate. The total's great at 49. I mean, it's a great matchup versus the Rams' 28th ranked run defense. It's a close, high-scoring game. That's all you could ask for. Bijan Robinson at 7, 101 over-under, 104 yards per game. He scores a tutty at a 60% rate, and the total's great at 48. Chargers' total defense is extremely scary, but the run defense is league average at 15. This is going to be Atlanta's path to victory, pounding the rock if they want to beat LA or at least stay competitive. They'll be fine. Jonathan Taylor at 8, 89 over-under, 91 yards per game. He scores a tutty 60% of the time. I mean, the total sucks at 42. They are slight favorites here, and the Patriots' run defense is just below league average. So he should have no problem getting his fantasy points this week. Don't be scared. Josh Jacobs at 9, 88 over-under, but 103 yards per game. Scores a touchdown 70% of the time. I mean, he could have been higher, but Miami's run defense is no joke. They are 9th best. This is going to be a tough game for both teams. It's going to be one with the Packers' toughest matchups this season, but Matt LaFleur's been in his bag. Jacobs should be just fine. And Chase Brown, at 10, 93 over-under, only 74 yards per game, but he scores a touchdown 60% of the time. He's been outstanding, but he gets the Steelers this week. Their front 7 is no joke. They are elite against the run, and the game script should lead Burrow to an air raid offense. Chase stays in the A tier with his pass catch ability and high team total for this game. Don't be scared. CMC at 11. 109 over under, 94 yards per game. I mean, I was torn here. His yards have been outstanding, but 0 touchdowns and being heavy dogs in this game with the Bills are two very bad things for an elite running back. It knocks him down a tier or two. RIP CMC drafters, 11th this week is not what you want to hear. B tier begins with the rest of the starting running backs. These guys are projected for over 80 yards. They are only 5. Pay attention. We'll kick it off with ErvinandM.com. ErvinandM.com is my company my best friend and I started in 2020. We literally make everything ourselves by hand. We have earrings, rings, necklaces, bracelets, tie clips, apparel, and more. Over a dozen curated gemstones and 100 handcrafted products. If you need a gift or something special for yourself, use the promo code in the description, find something you love, and buy it today. Now back to the video. Support me, support you. Shop at my store. I built it. My partner and I handcraft and make everything to order ourselves. Like this handcrafted fuchsite inlay tungsten ring. And this hat. But if you don't like spending money, subscribe. It's free. And at 12, we'll kick it off.
Today, Junior?
And at 12, we'll kick it off. David Montgomery. 49 over under. That's 80 yards per game. This is fixing to be a beatdown with a huge total and double-digit favorites. I mean, you see Gibbs up here. You know it means against the 20th worst Bears run D. Monty's going to be high this week at 12. And with 1.1 touchdowns per game, you're not scared. Kenneth Walker at 13. 82 over under, 85 yards per game. Gets a sweet matchup against the Jets in their 22nd worst run D. He scores nearly a touchdown every game at 90%. And even though the total's low, he should have no problem being the focal point of the offense, given the huge difference in the Jets' below-average front 7 versus their top back 7. Devon Achane, 14. 84 over under, 85 yards per game. I mean, everything is set for a decent game from Achane. The line, 70% touchdown rate, the total. The only thing holding him from being higher is Green Bay's 12th best run defense. As tough as a game as this is going to be for the Packers, it should prove equally tough for Miami. He should be okay, though. And at 15, Aaron Jones, 86 over under, but 98 yards per game. Aaron Jones would have been over Achane this week if he just scored more touchdowns. I mean, at 40%, it's just below where you'd like to see, somewhere around 50, especially since his team has a decent total this week and faces a league average run D. I mean, he should still do fine, though. Don't let that discourage you. But it is worth noting that while the yards continue on from here, this is where the touchdown rate starts to fall significantly. Rico Dowdle at 16. This could be surprising to some. 84 over under. In spite of his 67 yards per game, his line is high, and there's a reason, boys. The Giants are on fire, and they are 30th against the run. Dallas should have no problem beating him down, and even though the total is the worst of the week, Rico should be the focal point of the offense led by Cooper Rush, given such the tantalizing matchup. He only scores 30% tutties per game, but that's why he's at 16. Which brings us to C tier. These backs are projected for 70 to 80 yards, and we still have a lot of close, high-scoring games and favorable matchups. Ludicrous. That's nearly 25 backs that you feel good about starting this week. At 17, it's Breece Hall. He's been solid. In spite of his team also burning to the ground, he still gets a tutty 50% of the time, and the matchup is good versus a below-average Seahawks run defense. The total, though, and the lack of offense will really press the Jets hard. Seahawks should easily defeat them, and that game script is less than ideal, even for a beast like Breece. Bucky Ervin at 18. 75 over under, 75 yards per game. 50% touchdown rate, nice total, and a dream matchup against the Panthers, worst in the league run defense. This could be his best game yet.
Hallelujah.
As we've seen them ramp up the rookie as they round out the season. Wheels up. Tyron Tracy at 19. 75 over under, 81 yards per game. His 30% touchdown rate is the only thing holding him back here. He has another dream matchup as well against the second worst run defense in the league, the Dallas Cowboys. Total is the worst of the week, though, which is concerning. The positive note is that this should still be a close game, and if DeVito knows what's good for him, he'll hand it off like crazy to Tracy Jr., because that's their only hope. Tony Pollard at 20. 77 over under, but 89 yards per game. And the last stellar matchup comes for Pollard. 29th ranked run D against Washington.
Hallelujah.
Scores a touchdown 40% of the time. They are dogs in this one, but Washington is bottom 4 against the run and should be the main script for the Titans and old Mayo boy. Pollard should be fine. Chuba Hubbard at 21. For a top 5 back in performance over expected, this is not what you want to see. The 78 over under in spite of his 91 yards per game. Scores a touchdown 70% of the time. It's one of the best performing backs on the season, perhaps one of the most underrated. The issue here, though, is not exactly Tampa's league average run D, but the fact that they're such heavy dogs in this one. And what's more, they're better off chucking it downfield given Tampa's super weak bottom secondary, coupled with Bryce's dramatic improvement over the past few weeks. Doesn't lead to a good script for Hubbard. James Cook, 22. 78 over under, 78 yards per game. 1.1 touchdowns per game for the little guy. His numbers have been modest, and Buffalo is heavily favored in this one against the Niners. The only issue is the Niners' 11th best run defense. It'd make a lot of sense to see modest usage from Cook while Josh Allen plays hero ball as they coast to victory. Najee Harris, 23. 70 over under, 86 yards per game. I mean, he could have been higher if only he scores more touchdowns, but he doesn't at 30%. Warren definitely cuts into that, but he should have a respectable performance here against the 21st worst run defense. Expect Pittsburgh to be the more balanced offense in this high-scoring, close game. And James Conner at 24, 71 over under. And there's a reason for it, in spite of his 90 yards per game and 50% touchdown rate. I mean, I hate having Conner this low, but he's got the worst matchup possible. He faces Minnesota's number 1 run D and Brian Flores, which is
diarrhea.
This tells us that Kyler will be hard-pressed to win or at least compete through the air as they almost certainly play from behind. And finally, we've made it to the D tier in handcuff/terrible matchup/terrible offense territory. It's a big drop-off from C to D. These are the last viable running backs. They're set for 50 to 60 yards, whereas above was 70 to 80. We're going to kick it off with Kareem Hunt. 60 over under, even though he's done 89 yards per game with a 60% tutty rate. We're going to assume Pacheco plays and cuts out about 30% of the volume and production from Hunt. I mean, it was a good run, boys. Hunt has been more than any of us could have asked for. I mean, they get a league average run D as huge favorites. It's too bad he couldn't have gotten one last full game to ball out before Isaiah's return, but it was good while it lasted. Rachaad White at 26, 55 over under, 64 yards per game. Just as it was for Bucky, it is for White as well. It's a dream matchup. Though the flippening is finally here, it's 60-40 with Bucky now. His usage and his matchup are going to keep him as a great option even still. He could finish much higher than this. Don't be scared, boys. Ramondre Stevenson at 27, 55 over under, 65 yards per game. This is another great matchup and should remain the Patriots' offensive focal point against the bottom 6 run defense of the Indianapolis Colts. Ramondre's touchdown rate is great at 60%, which should boost those low yardage numbers for fantasy managers and give him a chance, even down here at 27, to put in some work for you.
Hallelujah.
Javonte Williams at 28, 52 over under, 58 yards per game. I mean, the total sucks, but this is a perfect game for Williams to go hard. The Browns are 24th against the run, and the Broncos are 5-point favorites in this one. They should be able to comfortably coast to victory with Williams in the backfield, even though the total is low for this one. And finally, this is kind of where it starts to get dicey. Got DeAndre Swift at 29. We'll go ahead and do Nick Chubb as well. You don't want to be a running back on a flailing offense as 10-point dogs against one of the best run Ds and total defenses in the league against Detroit. And Nick Chubb practically gets the same thing against Denver. I mean, these kind of game scripts are not positive for running backs, and it hurts their production and potential significantly. We'll give Swift the one up, though, for his production thus far, but it'll be close between the two, in spite of Chubb looking like he's basically 100% ramped up. J.K. Dobbins at 31, 50 over under, 82 yards per game. I mean, I'll be honest, it doesn't seem as if Dobbins is going to play. It's early still, but the YouTube fantasy doctors are already on the case, and it appears as if he re-injured his recently repaired knee. It's sad to see, especially given the matchup in total and his performance this season. But expect Gus Bus to step in and take the 31st spot this week if he doesn't go. And from here, it's less than 40 yards. It's RIP. It's the rest. Zay Pacheco. Jalen Warren. You know what I'm saying? Buy something. Go to my store. Use the promo code. Brian Robinson, who's nobody knows if he's going to play. He was hurt. ETN. Justice Hill. It doesn't matter. I'll throw your running backs full screen back on screen now. Throw anyone else in there that isn't on the list, and I sincerely hope this helps everyone watching. Support the channel by subscribing and turning on post notifications so you see all the videos each week before submitting your lineups. It's free, so it's a good value. But if you like spending money, use the promo code and spend it in my store. And watch some more videos!